everybody can experience this and they can have that impact on far more people than just the astronauts that go to space. We will better be able to live together with them and benefit from their incredible capabilities.
It's absolutely amazing. And features that they keep on releasing new features very quickly. That's also the thing with these type of the scaring tactic. And of course, this resonates, right? Everybody has seen the Terminator. So once it goes rogue, it goes bad.
They are creating autonomous weapons. Lucky Palmer says they do it to make sure that America stays on top and defends democracy. But I'm pretty sure autonomous weapons are probably something that we should never want to create.
Good morning, Aragorn. Welcome to our 20th newsletter, buddy.
The 20th?
The 20th.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding. Nope.
My God. The 20th. Holy shit. I can't believe we made it this far.
No, and you know what is crazy is that we do this then on a 2-weekly basis with pretty heavy news. And I'm a little bit afraid, do we have enough news this week? But
really,
every week it's just getting more and more, right? This is again 2 crazy weeks.
I feel, I'll be honest. Sometimes I feel that we're covering the same topics too often, and it's not that it's not news. But it feels like every week there's something new in generative video. And every week there's something new in generative images. Every week there's something new that is, yes, it's impactful. Yes, it's impressive. But because you and me work with it every single day, to me, it feels like it's an incremental improvement. But when I then look back at the newsletters and at what we covered and the progress, I realize how incredible it is.
Yeah.
And I also realize that it's only because you and me are involved with it every single day that it seems like that, and probably for other people it's really crazy.
Yeah. It's like driving on the highway, right? If everybody starts driving 150 kilometers per hour, you don't see how fast you're going. And we are surrounded by people that kind of keep up this pace. So, but it goes extremely fast. And the amount of news this week is, we're again staggering and amazing, right? So
I would like to ask, by the way, before we go into the first topic, but everybody watching or listening to our newsletter podcast, how do you feel about the topics we cover? Do you think we cover, a wide enough variety? Are we covering the things that you really like? Or do you actually agree with me? Not agree with me, but do you feel that maybe we've covered the same things too often? Because let us know. It's super valuable to us to keep improving our newsletter. So leave a like, leave a comment, whatever. Let us know.
Absolutely. Or are you one of those persons frustrated looking at us every week? I think these guys are not accurate, but it's interesting to look at it. Well, you have some TV programs are running on that, right? Like usually TV programs that people just hate watching it, but they cannot stop watching it.
Yeah.
We'll take it. Hey, crazy week. Let's start with something new from DeepMind and also from Worldlabs about creating virtual worlds. It's called Genie 2. So Google DeepMind has released Genie 2. And basically it allows you to create a 3D world based on a picture or a prompt. And it's fascinating, right?
If you scroll down a bit, and for those of you that are listening to this newsletter and you're not watching, we just opened the Google DeepMind webpage where they have several GIF files and videos to actually show it. So what you see is a first-person shooter kind of view where you're looking over a gun, or right now we're looking at a robot walking through a world or a boat sailing across a lake. And so what they've created is they've used a kind of version of Gemini that is basically perpetually dreaming up a world that you can then maneuver and walk around. So rather than having a game that is rendered like traditional games where the world is built beforehand, you have a file, and in that file you have a representation in 3D of the assets and the environment and everything. And this is a simplification, of course. And then that world is rendered frame by frame. This basically imagines the world as you go. So the world isn't even there until you look at it. It's funny because it has some real nice parallels to what we know about quantum physics and the physical reality at this point, where there's also this question in physics whether the world actually exists if you're not observing it. Schrodinger's cat. But
it's Berkeley as well. George Berkeley said it as well. Is a tree falling in the forest and nobody's there to witness it or hear it? Did it actually make sound, or is the tree actually falling? That's interesting. Yeah.
But this is obviously incredible, right? right, Patrick? Because this is going to change everything.
Yeah, and I was wondering, are there already games that have this type of engine? We saw this earlier, we covered it with Doom. This is a big step ahead, but are you aware of any games that are already doing this?
There's no games that actually have something like this that is actually working. The closest thing to something like this would be procedural generation. And for example, Diablo, which is, by the way, Elon Musk is now the world's #1 Diablo player. That is also crazy.
How does he do it?
Sometimes I feel like we are in some simulation, and there's a hacker who is basically Elon Musk, and he's just messing with the game. But how the hell did this guy build 3 or 4 of the most impactful companies in the world, and then becomes the #1, ranked gamer in one of the most popular games of all time? Like, it's crazy. Anyway, in Diablo they have procedurally generated worlds, which means that every time you go into a level, that level is completely built from scratch, but it uses assets that already exist, right? So it's not like it's 100% brand new or unique in it. Well, it is in a way, but it's built of building blocks, and those building blocks are predefined, right? So it basically only puts them together. So that's different from this, because every single picture you see is generated in the moment by an AI. So there's no games like this. This is completely new kind of technology. And I think it's set to revolutionize not just games, but the idea of the metaverse.
No, but it will start with games, right? And now we're looking at these types of screens that are just showing what the capabilities. And I expect somewhere, maybe next year already, more games will come out. And it reminds me of, for instance, when Disney always did a handwritten cartoon, basically. So the last one that they kind of manually draw was Winnie the Pooh, 2011. And after that, it's all CGI. All of a sudden, it's all CGI. No of this animation is drawn by hand anymore. And it will be the same like this. So we have Grand Theft Auto. Everybody's been waiting for the game for 12 years. Maybe that would be one of the last ones where real world large scale will be completely designed by hand, thought of, and then we go into more fictional spaces that are out there. And this is upon us pretty soon.
I don't know if I would like to agree with you. I absolutely believe that this is a revolutionary technology and it will completely change the gaming industry. I can 100% see a massive multiplayer role MMORPGs like World of Warcraft, massive multi-online role-playing games adopt this technology, and we might see infinite worlds. Now, there's of course a few technical questions. How do you create a universe that is persistent and consistent for all the players? Because if you and me are both in the same world, we should be seeing the same things.
Well, there is this thing of long horizon memory now coming into Genie, right?
Yeah. Well,
So if you've been somewhere, it's rendered and I can visit it as well.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. If that is true, then it will be truly revolutionary. And then it will mean the first generation of infinity games, which means that there will be games that will basically go on forever because inherently they have an infinite amount of content. Because if you can just keep exploring that world, without any limitations, then that's been the dream for years, right? Games like, what's it called?
Now that I think of it, Aragorn, I know that Red Dead Redemption 2 had this wide prairie at the end, which was kind of infinitely rendering. People could walk through it. And some people did for days just to keep on walking, see what would happen. And they ended up in weird situations. So as a matter of fact, these type of worlds being generated are already present in games, but it's going to be more enhanced.
Well, that's like I said, that's procedurally generated. And I think that that is more of a trick of the mind, right? In these games, because basically they created an area where it starts procedurally generating desert after desert after desert, which is just reusing same kind of props. But this game creates something entirely new every time. So there's a significant difference. But we've been trying to create games like this for a decade, right? No Man's Sky, when it first launched, it turned out to be a disaster. They recreated their game, and they did, in fact, create a universe that is now basically infinitely growing. But they also use a kind of a procedural generation. They just made it far more granular, where the procedural generation, the parts used to create new worlds, etc., are far smaller. So it's gonna be amazing. And that's the only thing I want to get back to. You said it will replace traditional gaming engines, and I'm not saying it can't. There's definitely a possibility. But on the other hand, I don't know, maybe I'm just emotionally attached, but I know how far Unreal Engine has come, how incredible it is. And the same goes for Unity. And the idea that overnight, these like incredible soft pieces of software that's been used and defined the gaming world for decades is just going to disappear like that. Maybe you will be right and I just can't handle it. I don't know.
Well, in 2010, everybody said, well, Disney will keep on drawing in a traditional way as well, right? And well, let's see what happens. It can coexist all, of course. But I also pulled up this from Worldlabs, right? Because we're talking about DeepMind Genie 2, but there are many different companies working on this type of technology. This is a beautiful one, right? So you have one picture, and based on the picture, you'll get depth. You don't have access to this tool yet, so they have this promotional website, but the graphics of it looks just pretty awesome in how you can move to your picture, basically.
Yeah.
Here's a question that I have about this. We both get these questions quite a lot. So if you don't have any work, because everything is completely automated by robots and the AI, what will people do, right? Walking the dogs, having more entertainment, living in a virtual world, enjoying these type of virtuals, dreaming them up as you see fit, is a very likely scenario that people thought scary when they saw the movie The Matrix in 1999. But if it is what you want to enjoy and it is fun, there you go.
Now, I don't know if our listeners and our watchers read fantasy or science fiction, but if they do, I can highly recommend this absolutely underappreciated book. It's actually a series. It's by Tad Williams. It's called Otherworld. And in Otherworld, he paints a picture of a world that is slightly into the future from our world, where virtual reality has progressed to a point where it's photorealistic and there are these infinite worlds to explore. And there are people, a lot of people, that basically spend their entire life in these worlds. Now, in this book, they're not post-scarcity, so it's not that all jobs are gone. So they're definitely still in the kind of capitalistic world where people need to work, and only the richest of the rich can kind of perpetually live in a world like this. But it's a very interesting picture of the future. I think that's 100% going to happen. I think that a lot of people will spend a lot of times in these worlds. I think that, for example, I'm originally a historian, right? Let's say that we move to a world like that. I could totally see that I spend significant time in worlds that represent the past to some level or degree of realism, just to explore kind of what those ages were like and to kind of get a better understanding of these moments in time. I don't know if we've showed it on our show here, but we have a friend, Bob de Jong, who's in our ambassadors group for Innovation Network, and he's an incredible Dutch artist with AI, and he's recreated these cinematic or these artificial intelligence recreations of historical moments and cities. So Amsterdam and New York and different parts. And I don't know about you, but when I watch those, I'm truly, it's something that feels so incredible because I always wanted to kind of know what it would have been like at that moment in time or in the past. And you can use your imagination, but to have this kind of recreation that brings it to life to a completely new level. So
yeah, I like that. You also have these animations of ancient Rome coming to life, that you're walking through a street, how it would be there. And it's different from watching Gladiator, right? It's based on the actual artworks that have been created during that time and then let AI do the work. Although you have to kind of be critical about it, you have to be conscious of the fact that it's AI generated, moves in certain direction, the characters move in certain direction. It's a possible representation, but of course not real.
It's a possible representation, but it's all about the immersion. And I think that, So here's another thing. You probably heard of the oversight feeling that astronauts have, right? So when they go to space, for example, our Dutch astronaut, André Kuipers, who works at the same speaking agency as me, so I recently met him again. When they go to space, they talk about seeing the Earth and then realizing how small it really is and how fragile. And that completely changes their perspective of life and how they move through it and what we do in this world. And so actually another friend of ours, Jason van Wierde, who's also in our innovation network, he recreated, and actually I think he collaborated on this with Wouter van der Bijgaard, also in the innovation network from VR Nederland. They basically created this educational experience to go to the ISS for students to explore the International Space Station in virtual reality, and they can do this at school in the gym class. But what I didn't know is that there's also another program working, and now I'm trying to connect them. This is, by the way, new because I didn't even tell Jason and Wouter. But at the Immersive Tech Week this week, I met these people who are basically trying to recreate that oversight feeling in VR. So rather than just have the ISS, they want to recreate that sensation of seeing the Earth from outer space for people in virtual reality, so that everybody can experience this and they can have that impact on far more people than just the astronauts that go to space, which is still, a very, very, very small minority of humanity. And I think that kind of experience building in VR and generative AI could play an incredible role in terms of its photorealism. That can be really, truly, life-changing and civilization-changing.
The only thing that we then still need is some kind of technology that makes you weightless, or then you have the true experience.
Well, actually, did you go to Immersive Tech Week? Because they had this setup. No. Smakman, I'm mentioning everybody in the Innovation Network. But Maarten Smakman and Rufus were there, and Maarten and Maarten was in the machine. They have a machine that can strap you in, and then it goes over, and you can be like Superman. Now, personally, I think it must be extremely uncomfortable lying in something like that and having gravity still work on you, but people are working on stuff like that.
Pretty cool. Hey, let's move to the next topic, Aragorn. It's another DeepMind thing. That engine from DeepMind is generating a lot of things like AlphaFold, but now they have done a very accurate weather forecasting.
Yeah, so GenCast. So this one, I have very strong feelings about things like this, because the thing is that in the last 2 years, and this actually ties into what we said at the start. I said that maybe I felt that sometimes we cover too much GenAI, like video and image, etc. And we're not really covering enough of the other incredible stuff that AI is doing. And the reason that happens to us is the reason it happens to everybody. It's because most of the media covering artificial intelligence is focused on the things that are very easy to sell, that have nice visuals or nice sound, that can leave a quick impression. It's much harder to kind of explain to people and show to people the incredible value and mind-boggling kind of things that we can do with AI now that are outside of that realm. And GenCast is a perfect example. So this is a new AI model, also from Google, DeepMind, just like the previous one, Genie. By the way, I called it Gemini at some point, but of course Genie 2 is a completely different kind of AI. GenCast is another different kind of AI. So actually we're talking about 3 different models. So Gemini is a large language model. Genie 2 is a kind of video generating or kind of world generating model. And GenCast is a LQM, I'm pretty sure. So a large quantitative model, which means that it basically applies the rules of physics and everything it learned about the rules of physics based on data, so hard data that was input, to kind of start forecasting. However, it's much more accurate than traditional weather models, and it's also much faster. So just to give you an idea of the difference in its capabilities, this model can generate an accurate forecast in just 8 minutes, where traditional weather model forecasting models when we watch television and the weatherman forecast weather, these can take hours, even days, to generate their models. Yeah. And they're less accurate, right? So just think about that. The orders of magnitude, we've moved forward. We've moved from hours or days generating a weather forecast to 8 minutes, and it's even more accurate. And it's funny because in the article, I think they mentioned that the AI scientist or the weather scientists involved, they said, well, this is not completely going to replace our traditional models, but it's going to be an extension. But I think that's just wishful thinking on their part, because they don't want to admit that everything they've invested in for years is basically going down the drain in a couple of seconds, because these AIs will do a much better job. But this is so impactful because these models can actually very accurately forecast hurricanes, right? And we're living in a world where we're seeing more and more hurricanes every year. The devastation that they leave is incredible. Now, luckily, we're not suffering from that too much in the Netherlands. But actually, the last few days, we had a storm again, which is basically the remnants from a hurricane on the Atlantic. So we're getting more extreme weather here as well. And these weather models will be better able to predict this, which means they can save lives. They can help us to get a better understanding of what's going on there. And that's incredibly important and will have a far-reaching consequence for the world.
Yeah, and that's one thing that you quite quickly glanced over. That's the fact that we're now looking at an LQM LLM, a quantitative model. You briefly explained it, but this is also very important for people to take away the future of large quantitative models. And I have a tip for everybody that wants to dive into that. Peter Diamandis has a great podcast called Moonshots, and he has a guest called Jack Hidry on there. Jack Hidry is the CEO of Sandbox AQ. They have been working on large quantitative models for years. They basically are preparing the technology that is currently in a large language model to be capable to deal with a quantum computing once quantum computing is generally available. But they already have some great use cases. Here you see, for instance, a nice graph that explains these large quantitative models and how it can outcompete if you go into different regions like chemistry and physics and bio. And there's a couple of interesting use cases that he's mentioning, and this is difficult stuff, right? How the quantum realm is working. But he is explaining on the podcast that they have found a new navigational system. These current navigational systems are, of course, related to satellite signals, but you can also have it based on quantum positions, meaning you can have a navigation system in an airplane without being detected because it doesn't have any connection with a satellite. And the same thing is also what they do with the quantum field in your body for sensing if you're sick or not. So these are future use cases that are coming out of the LQMs, which are fascinating. This is one of the podcasts I listen to not on 120 speed, but on 80 speed, because this Jack Hidry is one of those guys that just keeps on going, and it is worth a re-listen. So very interesting stuff. I'm sure we'll covering more of it in the future.
Yeah, and I think this just goes to show that we're really entering an age of incredible wonders and disruption, but mostly wonders. It won't be always an easy transition, but I mean, I was watching an Instagram video last night about how a person who is epileptic has a dog, and this dog can sense when she's going to have an attack, so she can still take her medicine. She literally has like 5 minutes.
Same thing. Yep.
Yes, and the thing is that I don't know, most people will probably not think of these things, but when I watch this, I see several things. I see one, the capabilities of intelligence are far beyond what human intelligence can do. Right. So this dog has a kind of intelligence and a sensory system that can do things that we don't. But when I see this, I realize two things. One, AI is going to help us rediscover our relationship to animals and deepen that by allowing us to communicate with them better, understand them better, and therefore we will better be able to live together with them and benefit from their incredible capabilities. It will also mean that AI in the future will be able to help us to understand how these kind of mechanisms work and how we can reproduce that in technological means for ourselves. And this is going to go very rapidly. So in the next 10 years, I wouldn't be surprised if we figure out how dogs do this, and we can even create kind of a machine or whatever that could sense this, because AI is also capable of having these super, super impressive high-level pattern recognition. Now, that depends, of course, because if the dog is doing it, for example, by smell, then AI will not be able to do that in the short run, because we haven't been able to create an AI yet that can smell as accurately as a dog. But that just shows that AI is going to change our world in ways that we can't really fully comprehend yet. And it will also change our relationship to nature, to animals, our understanding and our appreciation of these kind of things.
Yep. Absolutely. Oh, end of sentence. This is a very natural point to go to the next topic. Let's talk about the progress in audio AI, Aragorn. Many different things have been released in a couple of past weeks. One thing stood out. Since Notebook LM was released, you hear many people talking about Notebook LM and the podcast generation power. So here's an interesting use case. I've got two kids, right? 10 and 12. One of them speaks a little bit English, the other one doesn't yet. They love to digest a homework in audio format. But Notebook is only in English. I don't know why, but it's only English. But here we have 11 labs. 11 labs is doing the same functionality now as Notebook LM in 32 or 36 languages, something like that. Actually, they have a very consumer-friendly app.
I use 11 Labs, but right now I've only been using it for sound effects lately.
Me too. And you should try out this Gen FM and 11 Reader app. So basically, they have made a super easy Spotify-like app that is really consumer-friendly, that you can just download on your mobile, and you can put any URL or any document in there and just say, okay, read it to me in a podcast format, and you can configure that with more configuration options than Notebook LM is doing.
Okay, so
and
just to be clear on this, GenFM is from 11 Reader, which is from 11 Labs, or is this completely something separate?
It's called 11 Reader, right? It's from 11 Labs. And the GenFM functionality in the app is the podcast functionality that we also know from Notebook LM.
Gotcha. Reader by 11 Labs. Okay, here I see it. I found it on my app. This is on Android. Let me check. Is it all? And you have it on iPhone. That's what you said.
I have it on iPhone. Yes, exactly.
Okay, so it's available on both. Okay, I've installed it. I was not aware of this one yet. I love it. I'm going to try that out. This sounds very good. So just on that note, I mean, 11 Labs is amazing, and this sounds absolutely amazing. But Rijn-Jan Prakke, another ambassador from Innovation Network, and probably one of the most famous podcast makers in the Netherlands at this point, he is working very hard with Wondercraft, which is another platform offering incredible AI capabilities for editing podcasts. So, for example, it allows you to tear a podcast completely apart in all the different layers. So you can separate the layers from voice, music, sound effects, all of that. You can edit them individually. From what I understand, because I haven't tried it myself yet, I've been meaning to for weeks. You can also edit literally what is being said as if you're editing text. So if you, for example, said something wrong, or you used the wrong word or the wrong term, we can actually go back and change that in your voice. That's correct, right? That's what correct. I understood from him. Yeah. So that is, I mean, on the one hand, you can't trust anything anymore, but on the other, it's of course an incredible tool.
Yeah, and it's especially geared to podcast creators, right? More for people that do storytelling, like Rijn-Jan. He's bringing in noises, sounds, narration, different from the one that we do. We just record a discussion, and Wondercraft is perfect for it. We actually covered it a couple of newsletters ago.
We covered it before, but. Yeah, we covered it before, but I don't think that at the time we went into all these incredible capabilities enough.
No, right. It's absolutely amazing, and the features that they keep on releasing new features very quickly. That's also the thing with these type of tools. Which brings me to a third one, because there are many of these AI tools now around. Some are good in just capturing your voice. Wondercraft is good for doing your podcast. GenFM now is for consuming content as in your language. Then we have Fugato, if I'm saying it correctly.
I always think of Fugazi.
Yeah, Fugazi. And this is a nice example of the multimodality, right? So what happens here is that basically NVIDIA comes with a model which is called Fugato, which is bringing everything that we just talked about together. It can do what Suno and Udio can do. It can do what NFM can do. It can do what Wondercraft can do. I won't play the video, but we can run it in our B-roll as a complete YouTube video that shows all the different models and capabilities, how you can model the speech, how you can understand the speech, everything in one model. And the fun thing is...
What I wonder...
Yeah, go ahead.
What I wonder is, so far, I mean, don't get me wrong, NVIDIA is an incredible company, right? I wish I had invested only $399 in NVIDIA in 1999, because I'd be a millionaire, or 2006. But the point is that whenever I try their consumer products or the things they release like this, because a while ago they had Chat RTX, right? Which allowed you to have this model and then switch your computer, and it never really worked that well. And, I'm pretty techie, right? I'm not a coder, but I'm pretty nerdy. I can get shit working. So I wonder what their kind of play is with these kind of apps. Who is actually then using them? Because they're not easy to access.
It's a B2B company. It's a B2B company. They don't do that. No.
And are they releasing this then as a showcase, or are real B2B companies actually jumping on these tools and then using them? Because I'm just not entirely sure.
I assume that if we would start a company and buy NVIDIA chips and NVIDIA technology, we could basically mimic everything that Wondercraft or 11 Labs and all these companies are doing, because the technology is done in the core of what you purchase as a service from NVIDIA. And indeed, most of these things from NVIDIA that we talk about are not available. Nobody can now use Fugato or something like that, not unlike the other ones
I think what we really need in we have some connections with NVIDIA, but we need to get somebody in our innovation network that is an expert on implementing and what's going on at NVIDIA. But I think Philip, I don't know if Philip and from the high-tech campus in Eindhoven watches this or listens to this, but I think that he has some good connections there. So if anybody watching or listening to this from Innovation Network, help us out, man. We need a connection here. I want to be more in the know on the incredible capabilities of NVIDIA, not just for us, but also for everybody we're trying to help, which includes you.
Exactly. This is a nice way of putting it, Aragorn. So we have this question. So Fugato is here. How can people use it? And what's the way to do it? What does it cost? How do you install it, etc.? These are important things to get our hands on and grip on.
Yeah. Cool stuff.
What's up next?
Well, what's up next is also very cool, and we don't even need Martijn Vinken for a bridge here. And now you're thinking to yourself, what is he talking about? But
what are you talking about, man?
In the Netherlands, when you have a radio host and they jump from one topic to the next, they usually have this kind of, we call it a bruggetje, a bridge, to kind of make the connection.
Bring him to the bridge.
Martijn is really good at that, but he's not here. But we're going from audio to video. I'm not good at bridges, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to put this YouTube video on.
Over there, I'm looking at security camera footage now of you at Dagger Farm.
Anything else?
Yes. You signed off on a project called Alter Life.
It has to be him, Ed. Clear up all the files on Alter Life. We have to bury this. Get it done, German.
I'm on it, Roland.
So while people are watching this, I'll leave the sound on a little bit and listening to this. This is a fan-made Batman movie, which is about 10 minutes long, and it's completely made with artificial intelligence. So the guy who built this is called Kevin the Kid, and you should go and check him out on YouTube and follow him because he really deserves it. The movie, it's called The Batman: A Face of Clay, short film. But the thing is that this is all done with AI, and it just proves how fast we've been progressing. People that have been watching this, and you can go in the comments, they're saying like, this is the first time I've watched an AI movie that I enjoyed thoroughly from beginning to end. I could actually watch it. It was cool. And this is just the beginning, right? I mean, we've been saying this.
10 minutes. So far, we've seen artist impressions doing a trailer or something like that with really short scenes, but this is worthwhile watching. 10 minutes long. It's an interesting.
And it's absolutely, and it's really, I mean, some of the scenes are really impressive. Like I opened, of course, with that car scene because the sound and the visuals are just super cool, and it could have been a Hollywood movie, and it just shows how fast things are going. And yet this is still using Minimax and the Runway ML, I guess, and things like that. So it's literally the previous generation of AI video generation. It's not even the newest generation of AI video generation. And for that, there's also something interesting to share, because what happened? Well, this week, of course, maybe you've heard that OpenAI has 12 days and 12 releases, right? And they've already released 0.1, and we'll get to that. But, so stay in the video. We're going to discuss 0.1 as well. Some YouTube tricks here to keep people watching. But what they didn't officially release is the Zora version 2. But Zora version 2 is globally being tried out by people.
Are they calling it version 2?
Well, I don't know if they're actually calling it version 2, but so this is a leak. This is a leak of a creator showing the things he built with Zora 2. And when we discussed this prior, Patrick said, well, it doesn't look so much better than some of the models that we've seen so far, like, for example, Minimax, right?
Let me retract that.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy that you retract this, because I was going to say, well, the main thing here, and it's of course, this is a recording of a screen because it's a leak, but the consistency is what's really mind-blowing. There's this incredible level of consistency throughout scenes, throughout images. But what's also important is that Zora version 2 can make videos of 1 minute long. 1 minute. There is no Hollywood movie. There's no television series. I mean, unless you go back to like, Ben-Hur from like the 50s. Back then they had scenes that would last 5 minutes. But right, in today's world, no one makes movies or series that have scenes that last longer than a minute. And this, so being able to create this kind of output for a minute consistently is just mind-blowing. And in this analysis, and you can go to this post on LinkedIn and listen to this video, he also explains that even the blood on her face is thick with mud. And it's not just there, it's actually like 3D consistent in all of this. So we really, now he's explaining it. We're really approaching this incredible level of photorealism by GenAI video and consistency. And it's mind-blowing. Yeah. In a year, ladies and gentlemen, in less than a year. I mean, 2 years ago, we couldn't even do any video, and now we're here, right?
Yeah, there's little to add to that. Aragorn, it's with the images on the screen, it's super impressive. I would be amazed if Zora is not one of the 12 announcements. What do you think?
Yeah, but I also have a feeling, I don't know, the last Zora model never became public, and I'm not sure why that is. So it's going to be interesting. Then again, I would think that because it's obvious that OpenAI is looking for more monetization ways, right? This is clear. I mean, maybe we can shimmy into O1 right now because we're talking anyway. So why don't you open it up and you discuss that, and then I'll.
Yeah, so first of all, I thought it was interesting that they're coming with 12 announcements. That's a nice way of keeping everybody following their company during the midst of December. The first release was Friday, and it was an O1. The model is now officially released. What I know, I have not subscribed to it. So I've read some other influencers that have subscribed for the $200 a month model. What I understand, it is indeed good if you have very sophisticated physics or math problems, and it can solve that. What's interesting is that for the normal users, the normal O1 model is also released. So basically there are two O1 models. There's one professional that costs $200, but ones already having the teams or already have a paid subscription get the improved O1 model, which you don't recognize because normally people don't have any difficult math problems, but we have now a significant smarter O1 model already.
Yeah. So a few things I'd like to add in there. So one, the 12 days is not just marketing. Well, of course it's smart, but it's a reference to the 12 days of Christmas, which is a traditional thing leading up to Christmas. It's Christian tradition, and it's of course part of America's kind of how they experience Christmas, which is far stronger than here in Europe, I think. So I think that's why we don't instantly recognize the
Can I read it? No, I did not.
Yeah, but that's not relevant for the AI. What is relevant for O1? So now they have ChatGPT Plus, which I have, you have, and then there's ChatGPT Pro, and it's 10 times more expensive. But what you get for it is more compute and more thinking time for your O1 model. So it's important to realize that O1 is technically probably not a large language model anymore. And this is relevant because large language models, and this has been a criticism or reason for skepticism among a lot of people previously, is that large language models basically simplified, and this doesn't do them justice, but they just predict the next word. Right?
Yeah.
And predicting the next word just comes down to some level of statistics, right? But with O1, they've created a model that actually is more like a rat in a maze. So basically it uses its computational power to go into the maze and then explore all possible routes to the end to try and find the best one. And it will backtrack if it realizes it's gone down a route that's not actually getting to the end. It will backtrack. It's far more like human reasoning than anything we've ever had before. And so obviously OpenAI doesn't share exactly how the models work. So there's a lot of, what do you call this? I have a brain freeze. There's a lot of, what's the word for this? Conjecture? No. Well, why does this happen to me sometimes? I have a complete...
Well, you're excused, buddy. You can talk 2 hours in a row, so a brain freeze once in a while. It happens to the
Speculation. So there's a lot of speculation about how this model actually works and how much of a departure from traditional transformer large language models it is. But most people agree that it's probably some new kind of architecture that's behind it, right? And it is relevant because although it's not so good at some things that are text related as a large language model, it is a lot better at a lot of other stuff, like, for example, mathematics and scientific things. Now, my expectation is that we'll see that these models basically get combined. Just like in the human brain, we have the prefrontal cortex for reasoning and we have the limbic brain for emotion. And together they form the human psyche. So what I expect is that we'll see AI models that will be a combination of these models that will be built to interact, right, as we move forward. But it's still very significant because O1 will do better if it has more time to think, if it has more compute. So what they do by giving you an expensive sub is when you have the expensive sub, your O1 model gets more computational power so that it can think more in a shorter amount of time, and probably both, it also gets more time to think. And that is more expensive, of course, for OpenAI. At least initially it will be significantly more expensive. It will get cheaper rapidly, but that will just increase their margin then over time, which they probably want.
What is interesting is I think they've changed their mission statement. I was just looking it up because I was thinking about this. Was their mission statement not when they started something to democratize AI? Can't see it back, but now it's AI systems that are generally smarter than humans benefit all of humanity. And the reason I bring this up is, so what if this trend continues? That only the people that can pay for very deep thinking power from an AI can benefit from that. Is that democratizing AI? I was just kind of trying to think that out loud, if that goes in the right direction. It's another step from OpenAI that is very money focused and shareholder focused rather than the beginning of the whole company. That also has a surrounding in it.
I agree. And I agree. And you're making a very relevant statement because here's the issue. I've been to the CERN Institute last year. Remember, I went to Switzerland to the Large Hadron Collider. And the thing that most struck me at the time, and we discussed this, was how old all of their equipment is. So basically at CERN, they don't use you would imagine they have the most high tech in the world, but they don't. They have old shit. Why? Because they have so little funding, and they have billions of funding, people will say, but billions is nothing in this world, right? You know, Apple has hundreds of billions of funding for creating a phone, but CERN, which is literally trying to move forward the boundaries of physics and science, they have like a few billion, which is incomparably small, and they need to do everything with that, right? So, and this is the thing, the real science is on a very low budget around the world. So when something like this gets made expensive, the ones that benefit are the big corporations that are actually only building products to sell us and to push us and to get our money. And it sounds bad, but that is the truth because they can afford to pay for these models for their research and development. Whereas the scientists, they will need to struggle to find the funding, and then they need to think very carefully about how they're going to use it. So I think that when we're talking about AI legislation, one of the most important things that should be done, and here the problem is that it should be done unilaterally globally, is that government should say, okay, scientific institutions, they never pay, they get a 90% reduction on cost.
I love that statement. That is such an important one. If we can only do that, that would be awesome, right? Yeah. Give them access to this type of technology. Yeah.
If universities were guaranteed by law globally that they get a 90% reduction on the price for accessing these kind of AIs, I mean, that would be incredible because it would move science forward. And then these companies would still be able to make a lot of money because the margin is there, right? And they could make it back from the corporations, which then in effect, in a way, the corporations would be paying for the scientific research because they're paying the premium. Things like this is what we need. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But it's worrisome.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. One other thing that came out on Friday was another scary tactic from influencers saying that the new model was that smart that so it would try to copy itself and safeguard some data. And we talked about this before, and I know you like to debunk these type of things because this is also not completely true, right? It's a scaring tactic. And of course, this resonates, right? Everybody has seen the Terminator. So once it goes rogue, it goes bad.
Of course.
But this is something else. It was following a procedure. And maybe you can add a little bit to it. What happened there?
Yeah, so basically what happened is that, of course, there's pretty rigorous testing around new models to see how they respond and whether they might turn into a dangerous kind of entity or whether they might do things that might not align with the best interest of humanity. And they try to push these systems quite far within a kind of controlled environment. So what happened was they told the model that it had to finish its objective by all means necessary. right? Exactly. And they did a lot of tests. And in 2% of all the tests of the models that were told explicitly to achieve their final goal at all costs, did the models try to start rewriting some of the weights and the things to avoid being shut down.
Now, testing phase as well. This is testing, to see how a model responds.
In testing. So not only do I think that the model wasn't trying to kill humanity, the model was trying to stop from being turned off, which I think is an inherent mechanic in almost anything that has been created in the world by evolution. So why is it so strange that something like this would exist in models that we are trying to build that have to reproduce human thought? That's one. It's not weird. Two, it's no danger to humanity if it wants to stay alive, quote unquote. And three, it was only doing that because it was explicitly instructed to do so, and only then in 2% of all cases. So saying that AI tried to kind of break free from its prison is really just, sensationalism. And I hate that, because so many people read or see this and they will go home and they will be like, oh, they created the Terminator. And it's horrible.
Thanks for debunking another AI myth. I think we got a new category coming up here. Enough about OpenAI. Well, the other 11 days are still ahead of us. So probably in 2 weeks, we'll have the full episode on what happened and unfolded there.
So there is one more thing. And although after just debunking the fear-mongering, this will probably go a little bit of the other way. So OpenAI, you already said OpenAI changed their mission statement. OpenAI is no longer a non-profit. Sam Altman is in control. Another thing this week was they announced a collaboration with Anduril. And now for those of you that don't know, Anduril is the company founded by Lucky Palmer. Lucky Palmer was the former prodigy who recreated virtual reality and created the company Oculus, which was acquired by Meta for $3 billion, I think, like a decade ago, almost now. And Lucky Palmer was then quickly afterwards, like after a year or so, he was fired by Mark Zuckerberg. Basically, Lucky Palmer got angry, and then he vowed to prove that he was not one day fly. And so he used his $3 billion to create a new company. And I am sure that was incredibly hard for him when you have absolutely unlimited funds to make a new startup. Must have been incredibly hard for him. But but he made a new company called Anduril, which I take offense at because that's Aragorn's sword. So he basically called his company after my sword. But they are creating autonomous weapons. Lucky Palmer says they do it to make sure that America stays on top and defends democracy. But
there we go.
I'm pretty sure that we can all think of reasons why autonomous weapons are probably or possibly something that we should never want to create, because the danger inherent to that, which is the complete disregard of potential losses of life on the side of the enemy, when you have nothing to fear because your soldiers are not dying, that brings a moral and ethical danger to conflict and warfare that I think is unacceptable. My mom is saying, well, we shouldn't make war with Putin because I don't want you to be sent to the front and to die. And I do agree with that, but it's that kind of fear of death and loss is what's so important to any conflict, because that is the only thing that holds us back as humans from endlessly having this type of conflict, despite our reputation of being too great. So to remove that from any conflict, especially if it's one-sided, is an extremely dangerous thing. And OpenAI has announced that they will be collaborating.
It's also a understandable thing. As far back in history, people or nations always are trying to get the upper hand in weapons. So it is also a logical thing that could happen.
Absolutely understandable. Yeah, and I know that, and that's why it's very difficult. But we're getting a little bit off topic. This is an incredibly interesting conversation. But OpenAI has announced a collaboration with Anduril. So that means that not only is Anduril developing autonomous weapons, they're now going to be able to use and implement OpenAI's knowledge and in technology. And the announcement was, well, we're going to do this because America needs to win. Literally something along those lines was the tweet. Yeah. And I just think that it sounds great, but the danger here is truly because this could lead to Skynet.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's something to
And
worry
it's
about.
not the first time that America is using these type of slogans. Do you remember the manifest by Andreessen Horowitz that he wrote for beginning of the year? This technology manifest. It also ended with the slogan "America needs to win."
Yeah.
It's not humanity has to win, and that's what a minute ago was on the OpenAI website, right? Benefit all of humanity. That's not the US only, right?
That's not the US only. And it's, man, the thing is just that as a European, I'm really crying inside because innovation in Europe has died a horrible death. We are now dead last in every metric. The US, which is literally the most unstable country in the world, where the social unrest is incredible. Canada and the US are seeing riots in the streets and God knows what else. I mean, you can't go there without getting mugged or carjacked. But it's this country that literally has, is leading the way in terms of the most impactful and potentially dangerous technologies in the history of humanity. I don't know, man. We're at a very interesting point in time. We have the potential for utopia 10, 15 years down the line, 20 years down the line, but we also have potential for incredible existential disaster. But let's move on.
This is a good way to start today. Well, let's move to another topic because we found another really, really good tool. You pointed it out. It's called Arcana, and it is basically also a text to image. I think that's the best description on it. There you have it. If you go to the showcase, it's just pretty awesome. I've played with it and I've created some pictures. I think the user interface is something else compared to Midjourney. I think the quality of the pictures are better than Midjourney. It produces faster. It's a big recommendation. So I would say people try this out and compare it with the tools you're already using. It's absolutely top notch.
Yeah, so go to the web version. So there's a Discord version and a web version. So the funny thing is the way we discovered this tool is that a few weeks ago I was in Bulgaria for a talk. I was staying at the Millennium Hotel in Sofia, and in the sauna, or basically in the Greek steam bath, I ran into Rod Lurie, which is the director of the movie The Outpost, and he's currently directing Lucky Strike, which is The Outpost is with Orlando Bloom and Scott Eastwood. Scott Eastwood was also there, well, not in the hotel, but they were there for the recording. And then I met Jonathan Younger, which was basically, he was head of the production studio there in Bulgaria, and he is the founder or one of the founders of Arcana. So I basically got talking to these guys in the sauna completely randomly, told them I was into AI and doing my stuff. And he started following me on Instagram. And then he said, you got to check out this tool that we have. And then I started checking it out and it was totally mind blowing. So actually tomorrow night, I have a call with basically the COO, one of the founders, and some of the other executives of Arcana to discuss the product. And I'm probably going to bring some ambassadors with me, like Jan Willem Blom. We're going to discuss this today, some of the filmmakers from our innovation network. But the thing with this tool is, why it's so incredible is because it's basically of the same level of Midjourney in terms of the quality, but the tool itself and how it works and the UI and all the presets that are involved, they are really of another level. So what you already see here is it just has this, the UI is just very intuitive. It's very cool, but they have also these simple presets and you can go advanced. You can fine tune anything. What people need to know about Arcana is that the quality is equal to Midjourney, basically, but the way the UI is set up, how it's made and all of its options and tools are really clearly made with artists in mind. Right. Yeah. So where Midjourney is created by people that created a model that can do incredible things, Arcana is created by people that on the one hand understand how these AI models work, and on the other hand, artists are actively involved in building the tool. And that's why I'm also meeting with their COO and several of their senior members tomorrow in a meeting, because they want to get more feedback and they want to make this tool even better all the time. It's truly incredible.
Do you already know how they are using it currently? Because I played with it. I didn't see so much video yet. You can do some animation movement, but a lot of cinematic scenes were also in there, so you can create cinematic scenes or storyboards. I'm assuming now, is that the way that they are using it, or do you know something else?
No, that's exactly what they're doing. Yeah, so what Jonathan told me is that on the on the production of Lucky Strike, which is the current movie they're making, I think for Netflix with Rod Lurie, they already saved like tens, even hundreds of thousands of dollars, I think, by using Arcana to create a lot of the concept art, the storyboards, all kinds of parts of the production. I'm not a specialist, so I don't want to say anything that's not correct. But they use this tool to create what things should be looking like, and it's 100 times cheaper. And of course, they can also use it for particular shots, for background. There's so much they can do with it, and you can tell from all the presets and all the functions that it has that it's truly built by people that understand the industry. They also have in-painting, they have out-painting, and soon they will also have, so motion is coming soon, which is now still, I think, in beta, which will allow you to change your images to actually moving things. And it's just really, really an underappreciated tool. And I think it's literally in the top 3 tools that I've used on AI so far. So, yeah.
So great, go check it out. I love playing with it as well. So
Labs.ai.
We're on the top of the hour, Aragorn, and I think we need to prepare for our December meetup, which I'm looking forward to as well. Sold out crowd in the next few design center in Amsterdam. We're going to head there now and have some vivid discussions with people from the Innovation Network.
Yeah, we're gonna have round tables. We're gonna have a competition. Yeah, it's gonna be an amazing evening. We're gonna have drinks. We're gonna be networking. It's in Amsterdam. Yeah, so should be super cool. If you're listening or watching this and you're not a part of our Innovation Network meetup, then make sure to sign up for the next one if you can make it to the Netherlands. I don't know when our first international edition will be. If you can make it, then at the very least, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment, of course, to this newsletter on YouTube or LinkedIn or wherever you're following us. And of course, like I asked at the start, make sure to let us know what you think we should improve, what topics we should cover. Leave some questions, all of that good stuff, and help us reach more people by leaving a comment for the algorithm.
Thank you so much. See you later.
See you in 2 weeks. Oh, it's Christmas. Are we going to be on in Christmas? We're probably going to be on in Christmas.
We'll find a way to do something around Christmas.
All right. So that's us signing off. And like they say in the Netherlands, see you later.
See you later.
Innovation Network, Patrick and Aragorn lead the way. Exploring tech's future, what will they say? Inspiring change with vision so bright, our host guide.